It wasn't what you said, it was your tone. It was the way you said it. When was the last time you heard your spouse say that to you? It's not what you said, it was the way you said it. It was how you said it that angered me so much. Well, marriage can be challenging. We got two people coming together, living together, dealing with each other day in and day out. And sometimes, well, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be arguments. There's going to be fights. And some of us are going to put a wall up between us and our spouse. But is it always them? Or is it a combination of our issues in our own head and them? We got to get to the bottom of it. How do we fix things? Well, the only way we can fix things is to look at the truth. If you're ready to see what's really happening in your marriage and the things that you can change to make it better, you'll want to watch this video. Hi friends, glad to be back today. And today we're going to be talking about what they said versus what I heard. Okay? More often than not, someone can say something and it might not necessarily be at all what you thought they said. We can misconstrue it. We can find fault in it. We can also get upset about the tone or what they said or how they said it. But a lot of times that goes back to what? It goes back to our own personal programming. Okay, let's talk about programming real quick. Okay, programming is the fears, the self-doubt, the self-loathing, the self-worth issues, the questions we have about ourselves, the fears we have, these things that we've had for a long period of time. I've talked about programming a lot of times as the negative broken record, right? Those thoughts that trigger us, the ways that we think about ourselves, and that programming's been with us for a long time, and we filter everything we hear from someone else with our programming. When we filter what we hear from someone else based on our programming, we hear it the way we want to hear it. Now, sometimes the way we want to hear it is not necessarily positive at all. We hear it ultra negative. Okay? And so when they say something to us, we're quick to react, quick to respond, we engage, we rinse it up, we get angry. How could you say that? While the other person might be looking at you like, I don't even know what's going on here. I wasn't trying to be mean. I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just saying X, Y, Z. And so more often than not, we can be triggered by what someone says, not by what they're saying, but what we're thinking about what they're saying. Now let's think about these thoughts that we have in our head, okay? Many of us are struggling with self-esteem issues. That's normal. That is not weird. That is not bad. That is normal. Many of us don't realize our self-worth. We just don't. We weren't raised that way. I mean, think about it. My parents didn't say, hey, you're amazing. You're an amazing being, doing amazing things. Even when you're not doing anything, you're valuable. I never heard that as a kid because why did I not hear it? Because they didn't know it, okay? And so we're not given the proper information when we start off in this life, right? So we're kind of at a deficit, right? We're given fragments of information. We're raised in a family dynamic where there are issues, right? And then we try to piece together some sort of life, right? But when we see these issues play out in real time, we start using that starts becoming our programming. So a good example is you might have been raised by a codependent and maybe someone dealing with maybe a cluster B, maybe like a narcissism or something like that. And so you got to watch that dynamic every single day. The one person catering to, kissing the butt of, doing everything for the other person, hoping that the other person doesn't leave and trying to be there for them, right? Basically taking their identity away and just doing anything this other person wants them to do. And then seeing the other person kind of take that for granted, right? And watching this push and pull situation throughout most of your childhood and adult life, and then thinking, I don't want to be anything like my parents. But remember, a lot of times these patterns have already created a construct within our brain, right? Not to mention the things that we dealt with in our own life, the put downs, the bullying, whatever, and having that make us question ourselves as well. And so this concept of the programming is such an important factor that many times we overlook when we're thinking about marriage. When we're thinking about two people coming together, we're thinking about, okay, I got to go to marriage counseling, and we got to figure this out, and we're going to rectify all this. And that does work sometimes. But the first thing we have to understand is what programs is one person running on and what programs are the other person running on, and how does that cause this angry force field, right? How does this cause the problems? How does it cause the wrenching it up? And see, that's what we got to get to the bottom of. So how does programming interfere with us having a positive, healthy marriage. Okay, the first thing is that we begin to take things personally, right? What they say to us, we take as negative, we take personally. The other thing is that a lot of times when they're talking to us, we hear something being said much differently than what they're saying. Okay, and when we hear something much differently than what they're saying, we jump to conclusions and we fight and argue based on what we think we heard. Okay, and this can be very interesting and detrimental, because if we really didn't hear it correctly and we're filtering it with our program, we're arguing about something that doesn't need to be argued about, and the other person's questioning and doesn't understand, and then they begin to wrench it up because they feel like they're being persecuted for something they didn't do. When our spouse talks to us and communicates with us, when we have certain programming in our head, what they say, some of the words and phrases they use, can trigger us. It can trigger us in a negative way. It can make us go down that path of feeling guilt or shame, right? Or anger, or just frustration, right? And then that's when we lash out, right? That's when the real argument hits. Or that's when you want to leave or run away, or the silent treatment, or you're wrenching it up. Whatever it looks like, it's not a peaceful interaction. So what's happening here is the programming that you have within your own mind and the programming that your spouse has within their own mind is causing anxiety to interact with one another, right? It's causing stress, it's causing self-doubt. And when we interact more often than not and not seeing eye to eye or understanding where the other person's coming from, and we feel as though the other person is badgering us, pushing our buttons, trying to get a rise out of us, it causes resentment. Now, one of the biggest things that I come across when I'm working with couples is they say there's just so much water under the bridge. There's so much resentment. I'm so angry at what he's done or what she's done, or the fact that she doesn't even seem to listen to me, or she doesn't even care about my feelings, or he doesn't even care about me. He doesn't even think about me. I'm like, he treats everybody else, even if they're strangers, better than me. And see, the resentment piece is what we have to get to. And the only way to overcome the resentment is to be able to talk without fighting, to be able to ask the questions, to be able to get deep into how each person feels. That's the only way we can get there. Because if one person's closed down, or one person's starting the fight, or the other person feels like they're being badgered or being pushed to the corner or pushed to their edge, they're going to defend. We cannot ever get real thought processes and knowledge when we're in a defensive mode. It doesn't happen. We have to be willing to come to the table and communicate. So a few questions that I'd like you to start thinking about. How much of the issue in the marriage is them? Okay? How much of the issues that we're having in the marriage may be because of my mental programming? Okay? See the two things? Because yes, the other person could be gaslighting you. They could be manipulating you. They could be putting you down. Okay? They could be, making snide comments. Okay? But we have to be able to figure out what is really happening and what's not. What is real gaslighting and what is not. You see what I'm saying? So we have to divide it up and figure out what's really happening, because if I'm reacting from my programming constantly, I'm going to constantly think that somebody's gaslighting me. Okay? Now, they could be gaslighting you. They could be creating false narratives. But we have to know. We have to be able to tangibly understand, okay, yes, this is this because I've taken away my programming. I've stopped reacting. I've looked at my triggers, and now I can see that comment for what it truly is. And one thing that I'd like you to begin doing is to begin being mindful and recognizing your thoughts. Okay? When your spouse starts talking to you, you need to be super aware of your triggers. Okay, if they say something that triggers you, ask yourself, why did that trigger me? Why did that upset me? Why am I so defensive? Why am I so angry? Okay, seriously, I don't want you to think so much about the reaction anymore. The reaction is doing you nothing. It's doing no good. It's causing arguments and fights. It's causing your blood pressure to go up. It's very unhealthy. Stress is very unhealthy on people. It's not good. So let's think about this. Let's stop reacting. Okay, and instead of reacting to them, why don't you start recognizing what was the trigger within me that upset me so much? Why did that connect with me so much in such a negative way? Okay, so think about that. And in the process of recognizing those triggers within your own mind, it'll stop you from reacting because you'll have no need to defend anymore because you're actually doing what? You're creating a scientific experiment to analyze what is in your own brain. Once we begin to understand our own programming, we can understand why we're triggered. We can begin to understand the differences between being triggered and not being triggered. We can understand the differences between somebody saying something that's decent or nice versus someone that might be gaslighting or manipulating us. This is the information we need to know to understand what you can do to save the marriage, but better yet, what you can do to understand you better and eventually come together and work together better instead of having fights, arguments, resentment, lots of water under the bridge, and it feels like it can't be taken care of. There's always some sort of solution, and we want to try every solution we can so we don't have regret. I hope this video has helped you. Please give us a like on this video. Also in the comments section, let me know what kind of work have you done on working with your own brain to understand what you're thinking. Have you done this? Have you worked on this? Is this something that has actually worked for you? You know, are you super mindful? Are you working on mindfulness? Has it helped you? Because this is a community. We learn from one another, right? And also we have a new option here. If you haven't already, check out the join button right here at the top. Check out the join button. And you can get more information about what happens when you join our channel. And there's a lot of neat stuff that's going to come out. We're going to have some live Q&As and stuff like that just for members. But in the meantime, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I hope this video has helped you. Share it with your family and friends. And don't forget to live your true life.